Hello, Mr. Jasper. This is my presentation for the final, and the film that I chose to do is Rango, and the title that I chose for it is The Last Western: An Ode to Eastwood. So one of the things that really interested me in choosing this film was one of the pre-production methods, which was very strange for the time being. The movie came out in 2011. It was worked on for a couple years. The director Gore Verbinski, he wanted to have an animation. He knew he wanted this to be an animated story, an animated Western from the beginning. However, he didn't want to constrain the movie and its ideals to a sort of stagnant method of just putting actors in a sound booth and just having them read their lines. He wanted them to have a vision. He wanted to share his vision with his cast. And therefore, what he chose to do is he chose to have the cast act out the movie as a play in a sound studio, and while recording further lines with microphones and with lav mics. They dressed up, they wore their props for their characters, and this allowed them to get a better understanding of their positioning, of their the theme, and also how they interacted with one another, their comedic timing as well. And this was one of the things that really helped deliver that performance to the screen. Not only that, but the animators were actually able to get a better understanding of how Rango, the chameleon, was supposed to move. Johnny Depp, being Johnny Depp, was able to kind of add a little whimsical effect to his nuances, to his physical traits, to the way he moved. And in doing so, they were better able to capture that and animate that for the final project. Moving on to the animation and visual style, Rango decided to incorporate a lot of desert scenery and landscapes, which is, of course, iconic to the Western genre, and audiences were able to connect with that immediately. One of the things that they chose to kind of go outside of the norm and think outside of the box was with their characters. They chose to use desert creatures and personify them, but not only that, they decided to add gritty realism to this. They were dirty, they were ugly, they had deformities, they were missing eyes. There's a chicken with an arrow through his head. And what this did is that it not only kind of breathes a little bit of life into the animation genre. You don't have cute, whimsical creatures. You don't have like, oh, look at him, like, oh, this is probably like something fun, something about friends, friendship. No, what they chose to do is that they wanted this to be set like as close to reality as possible within the Western theme, and I think this helped it a lot. In adding a seriousness to it. This wasn't meant to be like disregarded, like, oh well, it's a cartoon, it's animated. No, it is not. And that's one of the things that the director Gore Verbinski really wanted to make sure, and that his team understood as well. And in doing so, you have roadrunners that are used as horses. You have Rattlesnake Jake, who has a gun as his rattle. And then you have the mole families. You have the toad, who's a bartender. You have the spider, who's a coffin maker. And all of these things kind of captured the attention of the audience and kept them entertained as they notice and as they observe this strange little town of dirt. Another thing that was really interesting to see was the motif, the who am I, and that's kind of the quest that Rango is on from the beginning. He's a theatrical chameleon. He is an actor. He wants to perform, but he doesn't know who to perform for. Is he performing for himself? Why is he performing, and what is his purpose? What is his role? And all of this is kind of encompassed when he is thrown into the desert. He's looking for water. He's like, I'm not from here. What am I supposed to do? But through the course of the story, he learns about the town. He learns about its people. They're facing a harsh reality, and he just kind of comes along and kind of lies to their face and wows them with tales of intrigue and drama that aren't true. And in doing so, of course, like, he becomes a sheriff, but all of that he is exposed as a fake. But one of the things that helps him out the most is when he encounters the Spirit of the West, which, is this magical godlike being that exists and that is sort of helps those that need it. And in doing so, when he encounters the Spirit of the West, he tells him no man can walk out in his own story. And he also tells him, he's like, it's not about you, it's about them, as in the city, the people of dirt. Go and help them, and that is who you are. And this helps Rango to muster up the courage to return and take back the city from the corrupt mayor, from Rattlesnake Jake, from the hired guns, the thugs, who were waiting to turn a new leaf and to take over the town and basically remove everyone so that they could establish their new society. One of the things that really captured me a lot was the use of the spiritual themes and how they chose to portray the desert as this magical place that almost doesn't seem real, which is very true. For a lot of people that kind of grew up in this landscape, it's kind of viewed as very flat, very mundane, very hot. There's not much else about it, but that's not true. So one of the things what I really like that they did is that the many creatures that he encounters, even the narrators, the band of owl mariachis, who in a lot of societies, owls are viewed as omens of death, or some see them as death, some see them as good fortune, and as they follow him around and they tell him of this tale, as if the owls have existed and lived for many, many years. And so one of the things that he also encounters is the walking cacti. And the thing about the walking cacti is that they have faces, they move, and they're seen as very, very mystical creatures, even though they're meant to be just, plants. However, they almost act as angels because they come to his help. They come to Rango's help once he establishes a plan to turn on the water main and return the water to the town. And all of their messages, all of their little plays that they do, all of their little subliminal messages that they send him, all help Rango and to realize his purpose, his role, and their help, and how he must help the town as well. One of the things that I really enjoyed was how they decided to personify the Spirit of the West as Clint Eastwood. Unfortunately, Clint Eastwood did not voice the Spirit of the West, but they did dress him up as the man with no name from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Clint Eastwood himself is a historic actor, historic director. Well into this day, he made all these iconic Western movies in the 60s, the 70s, when he was 20s and in his 30s, and he's still making movies today. He's still producing today. He's well into his 90s, and he is an icon, and he's still a living icon. And the way that he's been able to blend a lot of traditionalist cinematic ideals with evolving movies and evolving ideas is kind of what makes him very, very iconic to not only the Western genre, but to movies as a whole. And one of the things that I really liked is that they chose to do this as sort of an honor to him. And by making him, why not make this iconic, this spirit, this being of good and of wisdom, why not make it this face that has characterized this genre for so many years? And that is one of the things that I really, really liked about this movie, and I feel that that's one of the things that this movie and the way that they choose to acknowledge not only common traits, common predictable traits in Western movies, but they also add a twist to it. Rango is not a story of redemption like a lot of Westerns are. It's a story of self. And by finding yourself, you can help those around you. And that is what this story is about. And I really, really like the callbacks that they did to the large landscapes, the chases, the gunfights. It's something that you've seen before, but there's a new way to look at it. And that's one of the things that captivates the audiences and that has become such a cherished gem and in my eyes, what I believe to think is one of, if not one of the greatest Western movies of all time. And so this has been my presentation for Rango, and this has been my insight into the movie and its effects and its inspirations. It's inspired me greatly in my personal work, and I hope it does in you as well. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a good one.